Good morning and welcome to another edition of Rethinking Freedom. I am your host, Fubara Eneli, and I am, as always, thrilled to have this time with you. I want to thank all of you, our listeners, whether you listen on the radio station or you download the podcast or you're watching on our YouTube channel. Your comments, your feedback makes all the difference in the world. We will not be doing this if we did not have a group of people to talk to. And so today, I don't have any guests for you, but I am expecting this to be an episode where there are lots of comments and there are lots of people in on our YouTube channel in the comment section talking to each other and sharing ideas and thoughts. And who knows, from some of the information you share, we might do a part two of this and actually bring some of you live to share your experiences and your advice with our group. So it is summertime in the United States of America. In other parts of the world, in different hemispheres, it might be wintertime, but it might be still a break from school for the young people. And the question is, what do you do with this break? So here at Rethinking Freedom, this is not just a show. This is a place where we actively encourage people to think about what freedom means to them and then to check to see what am I actively and intentionally doing to bring about the freedom that I claim that I want. And our topic for today is freedom in routine, building summer structure for children and families. Now, I'm telling you, we could have done freedom in routine and talked about health. We could do freedom in routine and talk about sleeping habits. We can talk about freedom in routine and talk about how much time we're spending on social media or whether we read and so on and so forth. But for today, we are focusing on building structure over the summer for our children and our families. Now, when some of you hear the word structure, tell me if you're in the chat, tell me what comes to mind when you think structure. Do you roll your eyes? Do you feel triggered, traumatized somehow? Do you feel restricted? Because many of us, when we think about structure, we are thinking about rigidity, we're thinking about pressure, we're thinking about being controlled. But the kind of structure that I am talking about today, and the way I love to structure my life, is to actually create habits that allow me to experience more freedom. So, for instance, if you structure your finances, you may find out that you have more financial freedom, as opposed to if you're just like, whatever. If it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. However it goes, I'm not tracking anything. And the next thing you find yourself homeless. So we are talking about the kind of structure that nurtures confidence in our children, that nurtures creativity, that nurtures responsibility, that grounds our children, that helps them better understand themselves. Because for children, and really for all of us, but we're talking children today, a predictable rhythm provides safety and emotional stability, no matter how much they may fight you. And I have some stories for you. Structure brings responsibility, it builds identity, it strengthens family bonds, it helps children understand that they are cared for and that there are expectations of them. And they are not low expectations, they're high expectations. You know, I'm a mother of 5 children, in case some of you don't know that. And my children are a little older now. So my youngest is 15 and my oldest is 26. But I remember summers where, parents, you can relate to this. You will hear, I'm so bored. And I was like, the devil is a liar. We don't do boredom in this house. Like, there are dishes to be cleaned, laundry that should be washed and folded and put away. You know, I've got stuff for you to do. So you can choose what you want to do as opposed to yelling boredom. You can read. You can certainly clean up your room because that's expected of you. You can get arts and crafts pieces and get creative. You can go out and dig in the dirt if you want to. But what you're not going to do is sit around talking I'm bored. Of course, this was a different era as well, where the cell phones and the devices weren't as prevalent as they are now. In fact, my 26-year-old often exclaims, how do they have this freedom to do all of this stuff that they're doing? Because he didn't. And so I understand there are also challenges as the times change. But I do want to share with you today just some of the things that helped me raise my children. And a lot of these lessons are lessons that I learned from my parents, and others that I gleaned from books and from other mentors in my life. And perhaps these lessons may also assist you and your family. I will say this, just like if you were to train up a tree, it's easier when the tree is young and tender to kind of figure out, okay, I want it to grow this way. I'm going to put these supports in place and so on and so forth. When the tree gets older and too big, it's harder to correct. It's harder to, you know, get it into the direction you want it to be. So for those of you who have younger children, listen up, take notes, come back, replay this, share this with friends, share this with your mom's groups. Let's have a conversation. You may agree with some of the things I say, you may disagree with some of the things I say, but it's about thinking. It's about rethinking freedom, and it's about being very intentional about the choices that we make. So let's walk through summer and structure. Now, some of you are in, all of us are in different places when we talk about rearing children. Some people have two-parent homes where both parents are off to work, and if you have to commute an hour or something like that, you are gone at the crack of dawn. In fact, some of you, your children have to get themselves ready and go out to the bus stop, whatever. So adapt this to whatever your life may be. Some of you may be in single-parent homes. And so you have a certain dynamic in terms of how much you have to get done and whether you have a village assisting you and so on and so forth. I remember when I worked primarily from home while my children were younger. And so I would see parents or newer parents who are dropping their kids at preschool activities, like they're dropping the kids off at 6:30 a.m. and they're not picking them up till 6 p.m. because they stay for the after school activities as well. And sometimes my children saying, oh, we want to go and be part of that. And I was like, y'all don't even know. This is our family. This is how we function. Stop comparing yourself to other people. And I'm going to say that to wherever you are, however your family dynamics are. So some of you may be stay-at-home parents. Some of you may work from home. Some of you may own your businesses, and so, or with your work schedules, you have a little bit more flexibility. Whatever the case is, take this information, and if it makes sense to you, go ahead and adapt it to your situation. Does that make sense? The important thing is that you're thinking and you're planning. All right. So let's talk about ages 3 to 6, because I'm going to break it down here. And I do want to share an affirmation that I always shared with my children, and I would make them repeat these affirmations when they were kids before we would go to school. I'm going to see if I can pull it up because I'm not sure if I remember it word for word because it's been a minute. But I will definitely get that before we're done and share that with you guys. And I'll also, for YouTubers, I'll put it in the comment section as well. But I might just challenge myself and see if I can do it offhand. So let's talk about for ages 3 through 6. So for little ones, predictability is everything. And I'm telling you, for your sanity, predictability is everything. Having a structure is everything. Those parents who let their children wake up whenever they want to, sleep whenever they want to, that means you can't effectively plan your life either. You don't know when you can exercise. You don't know when you can do your devotional or do your meditation. You don't know when you can cook or whatever, because you are at the mercy of this child and whatever they feel like. And then, of course, we know that when children don't get sufficient sleep, they get irritable, they get very testy, and it also stunts their growth, just from a health perspective, if you want to consider that. So for little ones, predictability is everything. A sample day may look like this. Again, adapt this to whatever works for your family. It could be that you're waking this child up at 6 in the morning. It could be that you guys go through affirmations and cleaning up and brushing your teeth and all of those kind of things. And then there's breakfast. It could be that you choose to play um, soothing music at breakfast, or you could choose, hey, I want to energize them, and there are different videos and things that you can use, or not, right? But the idea is to set the tone for the day in the morning. And so, in those households where it's like, you're wasting my time, we're killing time, we're out of time. Can you see how stressful that feels in the body? And I can rattle all of those off because there were times when I was definitely in that mode of, and everybody said, and then you're yelling at one kid if you have multiple kids, and then now some other kids are catching stray bullets and so on and so forth. And by the time you guys get into the car, everybody's fuming. You're already sweating in your armpits. Listen, I remember when we lived in Illinois, and sometimes by the time I get everybody in the car, now I have a snag in my pantyhose, and it's like, okay. So now as a parent, if I know what time I typically have my children awake, then that means that I wake up 60 to 90 minutes before that time, because then that gives me a chance to get myself together, to get my whole spirit and mind where I want it to be before the young ones take over. As a matter of fact, when I was doing my bodybuilding contest, I would be at the gym by 4:30 in the morning, work out for an hour 15. I was back home by 6 a.m. And then my day with the children started. But I knew that if I did carve that time out first before the children woke up, then chances are I was not going to work out and I was not going to be able to compete in that contest. So breakfast, if the kids are home, making sure that you have some physical movement. So when I was homeschooling, we would do yoga, we would do stretches, we would go for walks, things of that nature, right? But that we would put on sometimes Just Dance. You guys may know that game. And it's quite strenuous, but you're having fun and you're working out all at the same time. So I would do that with them. I would have story time with them, so reading time. Sometimes I would look around to see what my local library was offering, or other organizations in my community, so that they also had that socialization with other kids. So this was when they were pretty young. And we would go to the library for science days and for just story time, because sometimes it's good to switch it up and it's not just mom reading to them. Then I would have lunch. And again, any of you who have had to think about what to feed your children or your family, you know how incredibly, listen, folk don't understand how incredibly stressful it is to come up with meals every single week. And if you've got kids at home, at least 3 meals a day. That's 21 meals in a week. And little people who are like, I don't want to eat that. And then, and you're trying to make sure that these meals are nutritious and balanced and all of that. And so I realized that there were times when I would actually like, okay, it's getting close to when I should start making dinner. And I'm like stressed out. What am I going to make? Do I even have the ingredients at home? All of that. So in terms of structure, just put a pin in what I was talking about. Let me tell you what helped me as a mother in terms of structure. On Saturdays, I would take about 30 minutes and I will make a menu for the entire week. That would be breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And if I needed to plug in a free meal, like in, okay, we're going to eat out one day, something like that, I would do that as well, right? And then based on the menu that I created, I will create a shopping list, right? Always, of course, looking at what do I already have at home and so on and so forth. And when I would go to the grocery store, I would shop very intentionally for the menu I had planned for that week. How many of you have started to season something or whatever, and you're like, oh, I can't make this. I don't have X, Y, and Z. I ran out of so and so. That's happening to me more and more now that my children certain things because I haven't used them. But then I find out someone cooked at 2 a.m. in the morning when they should have been asleep because they ain't got structure. And now I'm trying to make dinner and I don't have what I need. But anyway, so busy parents, really listen, you will save yourself so much stress and heartache and time and money if you just find a time, whatever day of the week works for you. For me, it was Saturdays. I didn't shop on Saturdays because I hate going to the grocery store when it's overpacked. But I would make my list on Saturday. I would make my menu on Saturday, make my shopping list on Saturday. I would go early hours Sunday when most people had not gotten up yet, whatever. And then I would do my shopping then. And then I kind of knew, okay, I have what I need for the week, right? So feed the children a nutritious lunch. Understand that what you feed your children is going to affect how they show up. So this whole idea of children wake up in the morning and you feed them Pop-Tarts and you think that's breakfast because somebody who's trying to sell Pop-Tarts put that on the TV. And so you bought into it and your kids whined and whined, or they visited a friend and the friend had Pop-Tarts. Now they want you to serve them Pop-Tarts. Go and read the ingredients on the label and ask yourself, is this really what I want to put in my child's body? For those of us who drive cars, and here in the United States, you go to the gas station and you see this one is going to be diesel, and then you see 89 and what is it, 91, 93, I don't know what the different gas options are. But anyway, there are usually at least 4 options. And you better know what your car needs and put the right kind of gas in your car, or you're going to have problems with that car. Now, if we can understand that for an inanimate object such as a car, as a vehicle, how is it that we lose our common sense when it comes to our children? And we really feel that for this human body, we can just dump whatever we want in it and have great results. You guys have heard junk in, junk out. And so, teachers, I know some of you are going to co-sign this in the chat. You feed children so much sugar out the door if they're going to daycare or going to school or going to a camp or whatever. And then you wonder why you're getting reports back. The child was, not listening. The child was restless. The child was so-and-so, or sometimes they get headaches, whatever. So watch what you're feeding your children. Nutrition is so important, and it's easier to feed them well if you have a plan, if you have a structure. And guess what? As the kids got older, I would include them in the planning. Hey, what do you feel like eating this week? What do you guys want to eat this week? And someone say, oh, can we have that spaghetti and meatballs? And someone else may say, chicken pot pie. And so like, I hate the chicken pot pie. Well, if I have 5 children and 4 have said they hate the chicken pot pie, I'm not making chicken pot pie because I'm not going to stress myself out. First of all, I'm going to take my time, make all of that food, and then have kids go, oh, what are you eating? And I know, I grew up in that era where it was like, eat what's in front of you or you can die starving, right? That's not necessarily how I want to parent, especially if I can get their input and then we can be in agreement on things, right? Now, I'm not Burger King. You cannot have it your way, but I do solicit and listen to their input as they got older. Anyway, so if you have your menu, then lunchtime, you're not stressing. You already know, okay, we're doing this kind of sandwich or whatever it is that you're making. We're cutting up watermelon and the kids are going to help with cutting up the watermelon. And ooh, this is so great, that kind of thing, right? I would always try to include them in the making of food as well because it teaches them skills. But when they participate in making their food, they're also more likely to eat it. Imagine that, especially when it comes to vegetables. All right. Structuring time to rest. Most 3-year-olds are still going to want to sleep. I'm still on the 3 to 6-year-olds. They start getting older and they may get to a point where they don't want to sleep. That's fine. They don't have to sleep, but this is quiet time. And for a whole hour, you got to lay down, and I'm not playing music and I don't have anything external stimulating you. You're going to learn how to enjoy the quiet. You can do your breathing and you can lull yourself to sleep, or you can keep your eyes wide open for the whole hour. I don't care, but you're going to be quiet for that whole hour. And guess what? I need that hour of quiet to hear myself think. For me, because I worked from home, I needed that hour to go catch up on email, to make some phone calls. I needed that hour to use the restroom uninterrupted. Some of you with young kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you with animals know what I'm talking about. It's like, why are you following me into the what? Um, so you all need that hour. If you are a mother of very young children, you're nursing, you got infants and toddlers, oh my God, make them sleep. And then you don't go work during that time. You take a nap too, because this is a culture, this Western culture, where we seem, as much as we think we know science, we seem not to want to understand and respect what a woman's body goes through to carry a child for 9 months, 10 months, really, 40 weeks, and bring that child to birth. Just that whole process of birthing, all your internal organs have all moved around, and your body has to, hormones, let's not even talk about hormones, and your body has to reconfigure itself and come back to like what it was, if it can, which we know most of us who've had children, it is never the same. Don't let the celebrities who've had stuff sucked and tucked and all of that tell you different. But we need that rest. In indigenous societies, you would not have been a mother who had just had a baby. You have a 6-week old, and you're watching a 2-year old, and you're doing everything by yourself. It wouldn't have happened. And so when those children sleep, sister, brother, whoever it is taking care of the kids, lay your butt down and sleep too. Seriously, if you can. Really important, because your body also needs that rest. And that way you're also not like frazzled and yelling at the kids, and your energy transferring to them, and so on and so forth. When they wake up, this is a great time for, of course, party and all the stuff that we have to do. But this is a great time now for sensory play or artwork, or just letting their creativity flow, like, finger paint, and can you do this? And let's go find, when my kids were younger, we would go on nature walks, and then we'll come back with whatever we found, and try to figure out what we can do with stuff. So I have cacti growing in my yard now that did not exist in my yard when we bought this house. The cacti were introduced by my sons when they were, gosh, I think so. Kenneth just graduated from 12th grade from high school, and I started homeschooling him 4th grade. So yeah, 8 years ago. But this is a time for creativity. This is a time for sensory play, right? Not iPad. I didn't say iPad. Now, if you want to, during dinner prep, you can include the kids in that, or that could be a time when you're saying, okay, yeah, they can watch a show, or they can, play on their iPad. I don't know what shows are out there now, because my kids are so much older than 3 to 6, but we loved Sid the Science Kid. We loved the Magic Schoolhouse, or School Bus. Was it Schoolhouse, School Bus? One of the two. Of course, Dora the Explorer was cute, and she also spoke in Spanish. And I know that there's so many other things. Now, there's one that I'm hearing a lot about now. It's not Coco Melon. It's maybe it's Coco Melon. Anyway, just be careful in how much of it that they get, right? But we would also watch movies like The Lorax, and we would have these conversations about trees and how we treat people, and all of that. And we had it on their level, and I would insert some other things as well. And I just plant those seeds and know that these children are deep thinkers, and that all of that helps to develop their minds and their critical thinking skills, right? And then you want to have a bedtime routine. For some of you, it may be baths, it may be a gratitude circle. Growing up, my parents always had us do prayer time. So we would read a devotional, we would read the Bible, we would answer questions. Actually, my parents would grill us. We would sing hymns, we would read scriptures, sing, some choruses, make up their rest, we'll agree in one chord and pray together. And then after that, everybody kind of, went to bed and that kind of thing. So figure out what works for you, but you should have a bedtime routine. The kids and you're programming their brain so that they know, okay, this is when mommy or daddy or grandma or grandpa, whoever is taking care of them, this is, how we shower. And then they massage my body maybe with oils. And I get my pajama on. And I know everybody's life is not this way, so don't come at me. Again, adapt it to the way that you can as much as you can. We're gonna sing stories, or read stories. So I would read stories to my kids, and then for each of them, there was also a special song. It was typically like a classic R&B song. Sometimes they were more modern, but I would change the lyrics so my children's name, that particular child's name is in the song. So each child has their own song. And sometimes they remember it, like the song will come on and they're like, Mom, I remember when you used to sing this to me. But anyway, that was part of my routine. A prayer before we went to sleep. And guess what? I did not have TVs in their room. I did not have video games in their rooms. I did not have, I think when they were much younger at one point, and I'm dating myself here, we had like CD players and it would be just like something soothing. But really and the lights off. I might have a night light, plugged in somewhere, but the lights off. The idea is to not stimulate them and to let them sleep, right? So that's 3 to 6, and I kind of went on for a while, so I'm going to go a little faster with the other ones. By the way, some learning tools that you can use for 3 to 6 year olds. We would always start the summer off by we would set goals as for the kids. The kids and I will sit down and we'll have posters and we'll set goals. We also did this at the beginning of the school year too. But someone may have a goal for tennis or a goal for how fast they wanted to run, or in the case of Kosi, one of my daughters, a goal for how many books she wanted to read over the summer. Sometimes it was writing books for some of them, but we would talk about goals to begin with, and then we would make a trip to the local bookstore in my area. At that time it was Barnes and Noble, and we would pick up workbooks on math and reading and comprehension and science. And so, as part of my structure for the kids, particularly once they got into elementary school, they had to do schoolwork every day, except Fridays. Fridays were fun days. So, Monday through Thursday, we were on it. Fridays were fun days, still with some structure. And then, of course, Saturdays and Sundays. All right. So, let me continue here. So, some learning tools you can use for the 3 to 6 year olds. KHAN Academy Kids. It's free, it's fun, it has songs, it has stories. The one thing I would say is, depending on what your background is, you may want to vet some of these things to make sure that they're not teaching your children to feel inferior about themselves. Because if all the information that they're getting is from people who don't look like them and is about people who don't look like them, there's that internal question of, well, where am I, and do I count? So for me, it was very important to supplement what my kids were getting from some of these sources with other sources that showed us as Black people and showed our contributions to culture and history and so on and so forth. And on that note, I will strongly recommend Urban Intellectuals. A friend of mine, Freddie Taylor, actually is the CEO of that company. And they have, and I'm looking at them across my desk right now. They have these little cards. They look like baseball cards, and they have information on so many people of African descent who are trailblazers. And for me, it was a point of entry for the children. They could pick someone that they wanted to know about. We'll read whatever is on there, and we will do more research, right? And then we'll talk about why they picked that person and what lessons we can learn. You can also use another tool that's called Teach Your Monster to read. I don't know why you would call a child a monster, so I'm already iffy about that one. But listen, it's important to read, all right? It's a great way to build early literacy. Now, when my children were younger, we were using Hooked on Phonics, and I don't know if if that tool still exists, but you can check it out as well. For movement and mindfulness, you can go to Google Gonoodle, Gonoodle. They have they have different sessions where they're showing you how to dance and how to stretch and how to relax and breathe and so on and so forth. So that's really it's done in a very fun way for younger kids. And then there is a site called Cosmic Kids Yoga, and it's yoga through history again. Sorry, yoga through story. And so again, I always watch and pay attention to what I'm feeding my children, because I want to make sure that if I need to balance it, which most of the time I have to, that I'm prepared to do that as well, right? So, you guys, as a fun thing, could choose to cook together as a family, once a week, where everyone does something together. Maybe you're making pizza and someone is putting a topping. I'm not a pizza person, but hey, it could be tacos, right? But where everybody feels like they have a role to play. Okay, let's talk about 7 to 10-year-olds. At this stage, kids are ready to handle small responsibilities and express big ideas. You can make a weekly schedule together, using, it could be a whiteboard, it could be, index cards, whatever it is that you want to use, right? And so at this stage, like I said, we will set goals at the beginning of the year. I'm sorry, beginning of the summer. And typically my goals were time based. So you have to read 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, whatever it is that I set, and we would talk about the reason for that, right? So some activities to include when you guys are putting together your schedule, um, would include, morning reading, math and writing practice. Some of you complain about kids not learning how to write cursive anymore. This is your opportunity. Actually, I had my kids learning sign language as well. We stopped after a couple of years. I don't know how much they retained, but they've had that exposure, so they can get to that. So with math and writing practice, you can use Splash Learn, SPLASHLLEARN. With this group, you want to make sure that you also have times for them to do chores. Um, so pay attention to, what chores do you want them to do? Do you want them to be able to pick up, put their toys away? Do you want them to be able to make their bed? However sloppily it is made, this is the time when you start to teach them those things. Do you want them to help put away their clothes after you've washed and folded it? What help do you want them to be able to clean and put the dishes in the dishwasher, or actually wash the dishes? Definitely 8-year-old kids can wash dishes. My kids started cooking when they were about 6, just making scrambled eggs, things of that nature. So make sure you have chores involved there too. And then we love to plan play dates as well. We had lots of parks within driving distance of us. If you have one within walking distance, even better. And we would go at specific times, and they would just get to be able to socialize with other kids and get a lot of that energy and stuff out. And in the evenings, you may decide more reading. You may decide evening board games or storytelling. Especially if you have older people around, have them, grandparents and so on, have them tell stories to your young people, right? It makes a big difference. But again, really important that you have a structure in terms of them not falling back educationally. Educators would tell you about, the summer, what the summer does to kids, where they lose certain skills. And so I always wanted my kids not just to maintain their skills, I wanted them to get ahead. And so for that reason, I would always make sure that we were continuing from where they stopped with the school year, and they were reading and doing math and moving forward and so on. And again, Khan Academy is really great for that as well. So hopefully this is all really interesting to you all, because it certainly made a difference with my children and in my life in terms of my sanity. Um, Again, with this older group, maybe you're not I still read to them, but by the time my children were 7, they were avid readers themselves. They were really good with reading themselves. And so it was just giving them that opportunity to read. I would typically read the books they were reading so that in the morning we could have conversations about whatever they were reading and what they thought. Um, Give me a second as I go through my notes here. All right, so let's talk about ages 11 through 13. Um, So with ages 11 through 13, these preteens, yeah, they are so smart. They know everything. And you think teenage years, yeah, preteens. But at this level, we're thinking about how to build confidence through responsibility, right? So my children were very active in sports. Summer was a time to also get ahead in terms of sports. They took tennis lessons, they swam, so on and so forth. But preteens are forming their sense of identity and they need guidance and agency in equal measure. So this time it's not go brush your teeth. At this time, it's like, okay, let's talk about it. And let's say you work from home or you a stay-at-home parent or something like that. So they don't have to be up and dressed to go somewhere at a certain time. Maybe the conversation is, hey, mom, I would prefer to stay up till 1 a.m. and be allowed to sleep till 9 a.m. But when I wake up at 9 a.m., I'm still going to have to do my chores and I'm still going to have to do my schoolwork because I had schoolwork for that age group as well. I'm still going to have to do my reading and so on and so forth. And then, of course, this is the age where they're making plans and can you drop me at so and so's friend's house? Can you, drop me at the basketball court? Those kind of things. But you still want to make sure that there's a conversation about structure. And for this generation, you've got to talk about when they're going to be on social media and when they're on their devices. You guys have to agree that there are times when those devices have to be taken away, put away, whatever. There are times when I've taken the devices and it's like it's staying in my room. You can't get on it. Because you overstimulate and you guys have no regulation in terms of being on there playing games for 6 hours. And now I'm hearing about adult men and some women, but mostly men who don't want to work because they're so addicted to these games. So you want to watch what you are doing with your children at this age. Again, Khan Academy is great for them to be able to keep their educational milestones going in the right direction. PBS Learning Media. I know that the orangutan felon in chief who is in the White House is in the process of trying to dismantle PBS, but they're fighting back. And so, for as long as it exists and for as long as people like you and I fight for it, PBS Learning Media is a great tool. You can also have them journal. It's a great thing to begin to teach them how to journal. Um, Team sports. This was a time also when we would go bike riding. I would take them hiking. We had, like I said, Friday fun days where I would find typically something free or inexpensive, maybe a museum that we went to. And after the museum, we went to a park or had a picnic or something of that nature. There are a lot of things you can do with kids that are relatively inexpensive, if not altogether free. Um, Questions like, what did you learn about yourself today? What did you like today? What upset you today? How would you change things? Those kind of things. There's some cultural learning tools for this age group. Again, urban intellectuals, check them out with their cards, but also Kinfolk app, KINFOLK app, and Black History Express. And there are many others, but I'm just giving you guys some ideas, things to think about. Now, when they're teens, those ages 14 through 18, when they want to stay up all night and sleep all day and at night come out like little roaches and inhale or locusts and just inhale all your food, particularly if you have males. Now, if you have males who play football, they are out early exercising. They might get to a point where they're doing two a days. There was a time when I had children who played football and tennis, and they were pretty much gone most of the day. But guess what? That does not mean that you get to not do any schoolwork. You still have your reading, quote unquote, quota. And so by the time they got to ages 14 through 18, I wasn't just doing, okay, read 30 minutes a day. what I was doing with them is they had to read a book. I think like every 3 weeks they had to finish a book or whatever. And I got to choose two books and they got to choose the other books. So this is me now trying to influence what they're focused on, because there were times when my kids wanted to read just all this fluffy stuff, all this mystery, this and the other. And all reading is good in the sense of um it helps improve your literacy skills, right? Certainly helps improve your writing skills. The more you read, the better a writer you are. But I also wanted them to read things that would build them up as human beings, things that would challenge them to think, things that would inspire them. So, for instance, one year for one of my tennis players, they had to read the autobiography of Arthur Ashe. And for those between the ages of 14 through 18, they had to write a book report on every book that they read. And it could just be one page, but I needed a book report. You had to tell me what you read. Now, this was before Chat GPT, where kids can now cheat. Um, but I would also have a conversation with them about the book. So I wasn't assigning any books that I wasn't reading myself. So I had 5 kids. So by the time they all became teenagers, I'm reading every book they're reading as well, because I want to have that conversation with them. Now, some books I've used again through the years, like this one, How to Do Hard Things, I believe it's called. Um, 7 Habits of Highly Successful Teens. That one I've recycled a number of times with the kids. And so I kind of know it. I just have to refresh my mind. But parents, you have to be an active parent. You can't just be lackadaisical. You can't tell your kids to do things that you don't ever do. I would say in this day and age, it would really be important. This is something that I didn't do as well. It would be important to include language, make sure that these children are learning an indigenous language, like a language other than English. And then the other thing that I would say too is have a conversation about current affairs. So many people don't get newspapers anymore. So if you want to get them even digitally, or wherever they're getting their news from, TikTok, whatever, yeah, I've got an issue with that. But have a conversation so that these children grow up to be adults who are paying attention and adults who are actively working towards their freedom, right? As opposed to so many adults today who just don't know what's going on politically, even though politics is affecting every aspect of their lives. So you can do that part. This was also where we were having conversations about what's the next step after high school. So some of them were part of the curriculum in the summer was they were doing an SAT prep course, which I monitored. And again, Khan Academy has a free one, but there are others that you can pay for. But you got to have structure and you have to monitor. And then the conversations about, oh, if you want to hang out with friends or whatever, great. These are the chores that are expected of you. Don't even come to ask me if you can go, or if you can have, or if you can do, if those chores aren't done. Like, be very specific. For some of your children, they're going to have jobs during this time. Put that all in the equation, but make sure that they are also developing their minds and they're also developing their bodies, right? So this could be that they're also helping with cooking. They're also definitely helping with planning the menu and meal prep. As they got older, we had nights where it's like, okay, this is this person's night and that this person's night. And they decided what they were going to make. They just needed to tell me what ingredients they needed. And then when they even got old enough to drive to the store and get the stuff, they did all of that on their own. And what did it do? It taught them skills that they need, life skills they need, and it gave me a much needed break. And you know what? All my children can cook, because I think cooking is a life skill. You eat, right? You should be able to cook. Um, so we also talked with this group, ages 14 through 18, about fitness goals, about health goals. And so you would see us, sometimes running in the morning, or, challenging each other for push-ups and things of that nature, making it fun, but also being very clear that there were certain goals we were trying to reach. You can also, with this group, maybe once a week have, family game night. Again, even these older ones, except for when they were in activities, choir had this or whatever activities they were in, or they were at other camps. Summer fun days. I have pictures of them. of them as the older ones are like, yep, we're all going. But very much want to expose the kids to as much as possible. I love to take road trips when we can, and again, just get them to think. There's a game, talking about road trips. There's a game that my parents taught us, and I've taught my children, that is so awesome for car rides. Um, because instead of everybody on their device and, oh my God, the Wi-Fi is horrible, or well, the internet is horrible, or whatever, would actually play games that stimulate us. So it's called Animal, Place, Thing, Food. There are 5 categories: animal, place, food, thing. Oh gosh, what am I missing? Oh, and name, and name. So animal, place, thing, food, name. And so what you do is, let's say you have 2 people. I'm just going to say 2 people at this time. That one person will say to the other one, go, and that person will start saying reciting the alphabet in their head, A, B, C, D, and then you say stop. And whatever letter they were on, let's say they were at S, they'll say S, and then the timer starts basically. And everybody who's part of the game has to write the name of an animal that starts with S. They have to write a person's name that starts with S, a place that starts with S, a thing that starts with S, a food that starts with S, right? Whoever has written all of theirs and finishes first starts the countdown. And they'll count to 20. And at that time, everybody has to put their pens down. Sometimes we had to do it in our heads, which was easier for people to cheat because you can't really tell what they put in their head. So if you came up, so let's say for S, I came up with the name Stella, and nobody else came up with Stella, I get 10 points. Now, let's say for animal, I came up with snake, very common, and 1 or 2 other people came up. Anybody else came up with snake, we each get 5 points. And then if I couldn't come up with anything at all, or I made up something, which happens so often, you get a 0. And so you tally your points after each round. And then at the end of the game, you see who has the highest number of points. So what it did was, even as we're driving, people are like looking at what are the names of places. People are trying to come up with more quote unquote unusual names like for an animal that starts with S. Okay, maybe I say snapper, maybe I say snapping turtle, maybe I say I have one child, Kene, who comes up with just, you're like, is that a thing? And then we'll look it up and it is a thing. So what it does is it makes you, as you go through life, you're actually looking for answers before you play the game. What food starts with S that nobody else is going to come up with, right? What place starts with S that nobody else is going to come up with. So this is a game that we would play and then will keep us occupied. I'm saying for at least an hour, laughing and challenging our brains, right? And just bonding. So just something to think about. I didn't even have that in my notes, but it came to mind because it's something that we did. And when they were younger, there were things we would do like I spy something red, but you're driving. So they have to quickly look around to see what they could find. And then it will be their turn to I spy. And then it's like blue. It's like the sky, it's the car, it's, those kind of things. Or count how many cars that you can see in a time period that where is this color. So they're just different games that you can play to keep your kids motivated and learning and having fun and not on those devices all the time. Okay, so with these talking about making that they are part of. I hope you're as excited about this as I am, as I'm recalling all the things that we used to do and still do. I still have a 15-year-old at home. Kids grow mentally and physically through proper nutrition and rest. So I know that most kids now, I'm not trying to ruin your life, but you need to get sleep. It will stunt your growth. Otherwise, might create health issues, migraines, all of those kind of things. You may not be prepared for your day if you're not getting sufficient sleep. Talking to them about the importance of nutrition. So I had my kids watch What the Health with me, but hey, I wanted them to have that information. As they get older and they things like that, you're not always there to monitor them. You have to decisions the right way whenever it is that they're ready to make those decisions about what they want to put into their bodies. So definitely talking to them about maintaining boundaries. At this point, we read quite a few books on personal development, things of that nature. And then just even making sure that you build a village around them that encourage what it is you're trying to do with your children. So when they're saying, oh my God, my parents are so strict, they have other adults in their lives who are telling them, no, actually, this is a great way to go. And the parents are really loving you. So definitely talking to them about maintaining boundaries and making sure that you so structure isn't just about time, it's about meaning. Perfect time to deepen spiritual cultural awareness. So again, talking about these road trips, you guys can do family gratitude journals. You guys can do like Sunday rest days. You can do nature walks with reflection questions. You can visit places that teach history and spark conversation. One summer, I took my kids on what I called our civil rights tour. We drove down to Memphis, Tennessee, and we went to the Lorraine Motel. My father actually went with us on that trip. And then we also went to go visit friends and so on and so forth. Another time, I took them to Birmingham and they got to, unfortunately, see the Kelly Park, see the 16th Street Baptist Church that was bombed where the 4 young Black girls were killed. Um, Another time we went, I'm trying to think of all we went to Montgomery, Alabama, and we went to the Equal Justice Institute, and we went to the I guess, and I call it the anti-lynching call it a museum, monument, whatever that's out there. Shouldn't call it whatever. It was very moving. We had conversations, very deep conversations about that. And so you don't have to travel far. There's so much history right where you are if you pay attention. Here in Central Texas, which is where I'm located, you have the Thinkery Museum in Austin. You have Blanton Museum that has free Thursdays. The Thinkery Museum on Tuesdays, it's whatever you can pay, right? So if you got 5 kids like I did and you say, I only have $5, they accept it. Zilker Park and Peace Park, we went to Zilker Park as well. You could have outdoor play, picnics, so on and so forth. In Waco, you have the Waco Mammoth National Monument. I've taken other friends to children to and that was a great time. Got great pictures from there. You can go to San Antonio and look at the Alamo Plaza. Here in Central Texas, in Killeen, we have the Wounded Warriors Museum or Mounted Warriors Museum, but there's a museum. I haven't yet gone to it, so because that recently opened. But the Bell County Museum is one that I go to. Yeah, parks with the splash parks, especially when they were younger. We enjoyed going to that. It's free. I would pack some sandwiches in a cooler and some water, so I wasn't spending a ton of money out there. And we would have fun and we would make memories. And so summer is for making memories. So let me see if I can remember this affirmation. So this affirmation, before I started homeschooling, when my kids would when I would drive them to school, everybody would be in the car, getting out of the car. So it is, I'm a child of God. I do all things through love. Through love, I am the head and not the tail. I know the difference between right and wrong, and I have the courage to do what's right. And today I am having a phenomenal day. And of course, at that end, we'll say, and today I am having a phenomenal day. And that is how I would send them off into the world for their day. And so just think what we're trying to do with this show, with this everything we're doing with the podcast, with the YouTube channel, is for us to get out of performing like zombies, where it's just like, and you're not thinking about what outcome am I trying to achieve? What kind of young people am I trying to build in terms of this particular topic, but just in every aspect of your life? What do I want? And who has left clues about what I can do in order to achieve what I want? Now, we know we can do our best and sometimes still fall short, but you have a much higher chance of achieving your goals if you actually have a goal, right? If you know what it is you're aiming for. So as parents, you've got to have some plan of what is the end vision. Now, I don't know what career paths my children will take. Let me tell you, my parents thought I was going to be a medical doctor. I am nothing close to medical. I'm a healer in other ways, but it's not necessarily about the career per se. Although you look at people like Serena and Venus Williams, and you know that their father very much, saw that they had talent and honed it. But it's really about what qualities do you want your child to have? Do you want them to be able to, you know, take the knocks that life will give, because they're going to happen, and still be able to get up and keep moving? What kind of human beings do you want them to be? What do you want them to think about what their role in life should be, right? And then be very intentional about cultivating this. And this doesn't have anything to do with whether you are wealthy or whether you are broke, because history shows us there's so many people who quote unquote were broke, didn't have a lot of resources, but they were intentional with what they had. And again, they were very focused on, let me find what resources are out here to help my child as well. So I'm going to mention one more resource. This is for girls ages 10 through 18. On June 12th in Killeen, Texas, Intelligent and Talented Girls is bringing back its annual conference for girls. 12 hours, $25 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Let us know if you're having transportation issues. We will work with you. If you need a scholarship, we will work with you, because I'm actually part of that organization. If you go to www.intelligentandtalentedgirls.com, you can register for this conference. I'm talking leadership skills. I'm talking empowerment, conflict resolution, understanding social media and protecting themselves, setting boundaries, setting goals, feeling good about who they are, emotional intelligence, meeting with women who are, professionals in all walks of life, and having fun while they're doing it. There's so much that we're going to be offering the girls that day, but you've got to register them. You have to link them to the resources. You have to link them to the resources. So I am looking forward to all your comments. Give more ideas. Parents are looking for ideas. Grandparents are looking for ideas. Guardians are looking for ideas. And I know there's some of you who have children who have special needs. And again, you have to adapt this in different ways. You have to think through things in different ways. Share those ideas as well here, because this is a forum for rethinking freedom and taking action on it. And again, if you're into African clothes, and even if they're not African clothes, you need custom made clothes, you want to reach out to African Flair at africanflair.com. And Miss Phyllis will be sure to take care of all your needs. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please share. And we look forward to seeing you and talking with you next week.